consideration of the Electoral Act and passed it through third reading. The House of Reps just passed theirs through second reading last week, and so we're expecting that it will go to the committee stage, where the committee will have a public hearing to hear from stakeholders, political parties, and other players in the electoral scene, and then return to the House with what they consider to be the wishes of the people and what they've approved for the Electoral Act. But what we had today had to do with an amendment to the Constitution, specifically Section 221 of the Constitution, which has to do with the fact that only political parties can canvass votes or sponsor candidates for election. The lawmaker that was speaking there just a while ago, Honorable Sunday Karimi, is moving that should be amended, that even though the party will be the one to canvass the votes, will be the one to sponsor the candidate, the votes canvassed or the votes that the candidate gets during the election should be that of the candidate. It should not be a situation where the political party can now take those votes and give it to whoever they want to give it to. And he was specific to that this should only apply to presidential and governorship elections where a deputy exists. So the deputy should be the one to benefit from that that vote or the votes canvassed. If in such a situation, like you mentioned, which happened in Kogi State during the last governorship election, that if that happens again, it will just go straight to the deputy candidate.
We saw an amendment before the 2011 election, the 2010 amendment to the Electoral Act. There is a stipulated time in the law for an amendment to take place before an election, especially to the Electoral Act. With what we are saying, there is Senator Kenny Namani committee that is going around the country. One will be wondering when those thoughts and those reports will come in. Do you think that those reports can be infused into what the National Assembly is currently doing on the Electoral Act amendment?
Well, it depends, Sheon. If it has to do, just as you rightly said, there are some places or some sections in the Constitution and even in the Electoral Act that has a timeline, and you obviously cannot do anything. Parties have to pick up their candidates. All those have to be made clear specific times before the elections. But I can tell you that it depends on what amendments the committee will be proposing and bringing before the lawmakers. I can remember vividly that just before the last election, there were some amendments, the last general elections, there were some amendments that came to the National Assembly. And Sheon, I can tell you, I was shocked at the speed with which lawmakers agreed, moved it through first reading, second reading, third reading. It was concurred with both houses, and the Electoral Act was passed. So I've seen them move very fast when they need to, and I won't be surprised if they believe the amendment being proposed by the Inamani Committee is valid. It's something they feel will aid them in the field. I'm sure they'll pass it in no time.
Okay, let me quickly get your thoughts on what happened just outside. You've talked to us about what happened in the chamber today. What about what happened outside of the chamber? We saw some protesters come into the national, approaching the National Assembly gate today. What exactly are the details that you know? I understand also that the National Working Committee of the APC had a meeting with the Senate caucus. What can you tell us? What more do you know?
Well, I can tell you that getting into the National Assembly this morning was not easy for a lot of staff and people coming to do one thing or the other in the National Assembly. Protesters were at the gate and they were making themselves very visible, trying to make themselves heard, and with the placards, very big placards, it was very clear they wanted to make it noticeable that they had something to say. What are they saying? They claim that suspending Senator Ali Ndume is leaving them without representation in the National Assembly. But as I'm sure you're aware, it's the right of Nigerians, and the National Assembly has found itself as the symbol of democracy for the country. They've always had people come before them to make such protests. We're not aware if anybody actually came out to address them, which is a normal tradition when such protests happen. Somebody will meet them, collect whatever it is they brought, their petition or their position, and then take that in. But it appeared nothing of that sort was done. But it's been duly noted.
Larry,
where I'm sure this might
we'll take
be
a pause now for a moment. We'll go on a break, and when we return, we hope that the spokesperson of the APC, Malam Balaji Abdullahi, will join us on the program to give us details of what has transpired today at the meeting with the Senate caucus. But that's going to be after this timeout. Join us again.